Hello and welcome to another episode of Women Need to Do Better. I am your host, Shelley Kirshenman, and I am a confidence coach. I am here to help high-performance women, leaders just like you, reclaim your power, your energy, and your time. This podcast is all about empowering you so that you can be confident, and this means every aspect of your life, whether it's work, your family, your friends, but most importantly, it's how you show up for yourself. In each episode, I talk about different situations that either I personally have been in or that I've helped coach others get through. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of how we can stop overgiving and we can start setting stronger boundaries so that way we can take better care of ourselves. Because let's face it, we can't pour from an empty cup. So let's stop judging and criticizing ourselves and let's focus on our own needs because we need to thrive without sacrificing our well-being and mental health. There is power in being selfish, and it is a good thing. So let's get selfish together so that way we have the energy and time to do more for others. I'm going to recap real quick. That last episode, last Thursday, I was talking about how we can basically be able to stay grounded in the chaos, in the stress. And in that episode, I talked about how there's the pressures of our overloaded schedule that doesn't have enough space for us to mentally decompress. And it pushes us into that survival mode. And that kind of is a segue into today's topic, which is elephants and skeletons. And it's about focusing on what we internally avoid, but it amplifies our stress. These unaddressed thoughts, the elephant, which is the negative self-talk, and the skeletons, which is the unresolved issue or issues, which is ending up being hidden emotional baggage, which doesn't serve us well at all. So I wanted to talk about first the elephant. And we call it like the elephant in the room, but really what it is, it's the elephant in our heads. And we as women, we kind of expect ourselves to juggle multiple roles. I mean, let's be honest. This is something that we put on ourselves. Career, family, personal growth, everything. We pack our schedules to the brim, and oftentimes we don't leave any room for ourselves. But what happens when we do that? What happens when we don't leave any room for us to deal with the things that we need to deal with in our mind? And when we don't deal with those thoughts and those issues, sometimes those internal stressors that we avoid take over our minds and our thoughts. So the elephant in our mind occupies that mental space, and that negative self-talk will drain us of our confidence. It'll sabotage our self-belief, and that in turn can translate into bigger struggles for us believing that we can take care of things. We start doubting our abilities, and then we stop taking action. We procrastinate. We're overthinking things. How often have you caught yourself saying something negative to yourself and then just kind of dismissing it, hoping it'll go away, acting like it's not really that big of a deal, instead of trying to think about where are those thoughts coming from? Sometimes it's the I'm not good enough. I wanted to go for that job, but yes, Susie's better at it than I don't know how I would do. Or I don't want to, take that class because, the last time when I was in school, gosh, it's been years and I struggled with school and I'm not going to succeed and I don't want to be a failure. When we leave these thoughts unchecked, they start growing larger. They affect how we see ourselves. And most importantly, it affects how we show up in the world. It prevents us from showing up authentically. We start kind of hiding behind these negative self-talk, this negative story that the elephants are breeding into our heads. And we don't really reach our full potential because we're in that elephant's shadow of insecurity and fear. Because self-image is a real thing. Our confidence comes from how we feel about ourselves. And if that elephant is going to dominate our mental space, it's going to affect us. We're going to struggle to fully believe in our abilities. It's going to fully affect us taking action, commanding our space, showing up how we really want to. And I know this to be true because I reflect on days that I feel in my power. I feel confident. My head is telling me, you're crushing it. You can totally do all of these things. And I do. But on the days that I'm lacking some of that self-confidence, I just feel a little bit, I don't know, yesterday was I didn't get all the things done I wanted to get done. I'm behind on this or that. And then I start doubting myself and doubting my abilities. And I'm telling you, it takes so much more effort to get anything done. Because when we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, we're not capable, we're never going to measure up, guess what? We believe it. That's right. Ignoring those thoughts don't make them disappear. It affects our confidence. It affects our decisions. And ultimately, it affects our happiness. I know that when I have the positive self-talk in my head, I feel like I can conquer anything. I get so much more done. I've got that energy. I feel the ability. I feel it. And then it translates into I act it, I do it. And what else is in there? Who's the elephant chit-chatting with? Who's the elephant gossiping with and coming up with all these stories? It's the skeletons in our closet. These are our unresolved issues. So you've got that elephant having all this negative talk, these negative thoughts, whispering these things that telling you that you can't do something that hasn't even happened yet, or telling you that something's going to happen that hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened. Don't believe him. He's lying. She's lying. That elephant, no. And the stories that they're conspiring in your head with the skeletons, those unresolved issues, they're mixing that doubt with the stuff in the past that's already happened. We have to move on. Think about it, though. Some of those old wounds, the unhealed experiences, the regrets, they create those skeletons that we don't want to talk about, we don't want to face. But they still influence our decisions in our relationships. It could be past traumas, something that we've tried to do that we felt like a failure for. And let me tell you, we are our own worst critics. Some of the things that we think we failed in, nobody remembers. It's in our heads. And some of them, I'm not going to dismiss everything because, yeah, some of them were real issues. They were very real. They were traumas. They're regrets, mistakes we've never really healed from. But we've also never dealt with them. Out of sight, out of mind? You think that's not going to affect you? Wrong. They do. Unresolved issues seep deep into our lives, making it harder for us to move forward. And the hardest thing is when these traumas are big deals and we try to ignore them, we don't want to deal with them. We push them into that back corner of our mind. We shut the door. We leave them in the dark. What happens is your body remembers, whether it's guilt or shame for a past mistake, a fear of failure, rejection from something, avoidance, something that you fear confronting because of those painful truths about it. Maybe you're not ready to work on that self-development, and that's okay. We don't have to let it weigh us down, but we do have to address it at some point. Because if you don't, subconsciously, it's going to weigh us down. And it's going to keep us from stepping up into your confidence, into your full potential, and letting you be who you were really meant to be. Those skeletons are going to prevent you from setting boundaries. It's going to make it difficult to set stronger boundaries because you're going to be caught up in the past. You're going to be reliving it over and over again, maybe not even realizing that you're reliving it. Avoidance and stress, they are connected. Those elephants of negative self-talk, jabbering in your head, hanging out with the skeletons of the unresolved issues, making the problems bigger than they really are. And that's going to significantly contribute to our stress and our overwhelm. And when we're not addressing these mental barriers, they're going to consume our energy and our mental bandwidth, leaving us mentally drained. And when we're mentally drained, how much can we handle? Not as much, right? Mental drain, energy drain, emotional drain. I've been there. I've felt it. These elephants and skeletons are mental baggage that we carry. And we combine that with just the regular daily stressors, like what we were talking about in the last episode. And all of that compiled together can be overwhelming. And avoiding these internal issues will only pile on more pressure. Ignoring it might be short-term relief. Mentally, that's what our brains are wired to do, right? We want to protect ourselves. It's uncomfortable. It's unknown what's going to happen. It feels so scary. It feels so big. But we need to. And it can be simple. It really can be more simple than what we make it out to be. One thing that I have noticed is when we have those big, scary mental baggage conflicts that we don't really want to deal with, the biggest problem is by not dealing with them, not giving them a name, not writing them down, we make them bigger than they are. And I know this to be true because I help my husband with this a lot. He has these things built up in his head. This is never going to work. This is so scary. He hates confrontation. Hates it. He avoids it at all costs. And I get it. I understand. But when you don't address them and you avoid them, they grow. One of the things that we're dealing with right now is he really wants to reconcile his relationship with his mom. And it's been super, super hard because she basically kind of told him she doesn't want him in her life. And she did this in public at church, and it was so hurtful. And I cannot even begin to describe how he must have felt, because what I felt, it cut so deep. And I wanted to protect him. But how do you when you're publicly humiliated like that? And I don't say this to pass any judgment on her. She is very hurt, and she does not know how to deal with her own elephants or skeletons. And this is one of the reasons why my husband has a hard time, because he was never taught how to deal with them either. And so we are a day past her birthday, and he's been really struggling internally on how can he not have regret. Can't control other people, but you also need to protect yourself and your own mental health. And this is something that we are still working through. But I bring this story up because he has all these things in his head of these big, scary things, which I totally understand. They are very valid. They are his beliefs. It's his truth. He is afraid of the rejection. He is afraid of the humiliation. And most of all, he's afraid of the disappointment that he feels he's given his mother. And the reason I bring this up is because these elephants and skeletons are so much bigger in our heads when we don't address them. But when you write them down, you can break them down. So you start small. Awareness is key. Paying attention to those negative voices in your head. What are they telling you? What are you hiding in the mind of your closet that you're avoiding? Journaling is a great way to bring this to light. And when you write down that situation that you haven't fully dealt with, it doesn't mean that you're fixing anything right away. It's it's not the point of this right now, because you're just touching the surface. This is the tip of the iceberg. You just journal it. Just write without judgment. You're just writing it to get it out. And you might be surprised at some of the things that you end up writing. But don't judge yourself. Don't judge the situation. And don't be thinking about this as I'm trying to fix it. All you're doing is you're writing it down. It's a self-awareness practice. And it's a good practice to do. And if you can, I would recommend to do it daily. Just kind of listen to your thoughts. Find out what's in there. Are there common negative phrases that you repeat to yourself? What are your skeletons? What are you avoiding? What's stopping you from your own personal growth journey? Just write them down. Don't judge. And I know it's hard. It's hard for us to not judge ourselves, but the better you are, the more you practice it, the better you get. And so this is something that I've worked with my husband. And I said, okay, what is it that scares you about talking to her or going to visit? And it always starts off with, I don't know. And that's when you need to kind of dig a little bit deeper. Like I said, it's scary to deal with things when you don't even know what they all are. But when you start giving them names, then you can kind of prioritize them. You write them down, you compartmentalize them. So we talked about, what is it that you're feeling? Well, he's feeling overwhelmed. He's feeling afraid. He's feeling sad, hurt, angry. There's a lot of feelings. He's feeling like he's failed her. He's not the son that she needs him to be. He doesn't even know what he did. And so we talked about it. He's not a writer, so I write it down for him. And funny enough, he actually does look at the journal. And it really does help him start healing. Little by little, he's able to heal. This is why I'm so passionate about confidence and boundaries, because it's so hard, especially with family, and especially when you've got some very toxic behaviors. And please remember, this is not a place to judge. Everybody has their own elephants. Everybody has their own skeletons. And I honestly believe that everybody is doing the very best that they know how to do. And if you are not equipped, if you didn't have the benefit of having somebody in your life to teach you how to deal with emotions, those big feelings, it's not something you magically learn just because you become an adult. And in fact, sometimes it's harder as an adult to address them because there's more embarrassment. Like, I'm this old and I should know this by now, but I don't. So you just kind of pretend. Like kids, they know that they're still in the learning phase, but the truth about it is we are all in the learning phase. I hope we all stay in the learning phase because I always want to improve myself. And I'll never get to the point where I'm perfect. And I'm okay with that. And I don't judge. There's no benefit in judging others because we were all put on this earth together to help each other. And so when my husband started thinking about what specifically was he afraid of? And we didn't get through all of it, of course. There's a lot to unpack there. But we got to some of the stuff. We put a label on it. The labels that we put on there, well, he was afraid that she was going to reject him if he tried to go and see her. Fair enough. Completely understand that. Who doesn't want to be loved by their parent? Right? He was afraid that she would yell at him. He doesn't like confrontation. He's afraid that he's not good enough. I totally understand that, especially with the things that have happened in the past couple years, the things that he has been told by her, the way that he has been treated by her. And again, I'm sure she had a lot of things that she was dealing with. And I send her love, but I won't go there because I have boundaries. I don't need to be putting myself or him in an environment where we won't be respected. And you can love somebody from a distance. It's absolutely possible. You are in control of your own life. You have to set boundaries and you have to do what's going to work for you without worrying about judgment of other people's thoughts. Because when it comes down to it, if we don't set these boundaries for ourselves, people walk all over you. They're not going to respect you. You have to respect yourself enough and be confident enough to say, you know what? I can still do this and love myself. I can still say I love you, but not show up in person. There are certain things that you have to discover what's going to work for you. And regardless of how it looks to anybody else, you know inside that is for your purpose, your sanity, your mental health. And you need to stick to your guns. You need to say, you know what? This is this, and I'm not going to compromise. And I'm not sorry for setting this boundary. So the story with him, he did not go to see her. He is still working that out, but it is not as overwhelming. It's not as daunting because we put words to those feelings. And when you can call things out, it's not as big and scary anymore. Next week, sorry, not next week, it's Sunday. So this next episode is going to be on Thursday. I'm going to talk about self-doubt and unrealistic standards and how that can lead into more internal struggles because they're all connected. Our overwhelm, the elephants and skeletons, not giving ourselves enough time in our schedule, the self-doubt, the impossible standards that we set for ourselves, constantly judging ourselves so harshly, that could be evidence of your skeleton or your elephant in your head. But baby steps. And the biggest thing is self-compassion. Don't judge yourself. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself, especially during this process, because the goal is not perfection. The goal is just the progress. If you are better today than you were yesterday, you're headed in the right direction. So let me leave you with some encouragement for dealing with your elephants and your skeletons. Self-awareness. That is the first step. Being aware. Because you can't fix a problem that you don't know exists. And I absolutely encourage you to do some journaling. It's one of the best things I have done for personal growth for myself. And as you are journaling, don't judge. Do not judge yourself. Judgment does not help you. It's just going to perpetuate that negative self-talk. So just write. Just let it flow out. Help purge your mind and see what's up there. See what it is. And then as you do this, you're going to start noticing some of those negative comments keep resurfacing. The ones that you're repeating to yourself. And there it is. That's when you can start doing a little bit more of the work. Using self-talk in a positive way. Those negative phrases that come up, turn them around. Shift the narrative. Turn it into from, I'm never going to be able to do this to, I'm going to conquer this. I know I can. I just have to stop judging myself, give myself time, and love myself through it. So I hope you found this episode helpful, and I would love for you to listen to my next episode. So on Thursday, we're going to touch, like I said, about am I enough? that self-doubt, the unrealistic standards that we put on ourselves. And if you have found this relatable or helpful or know someone else who would, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and tell a friend. I'd love to hear from you too. So if you have any suggestions or topics that you'd like to hear me cover, let me know in the comments below. And then if you want any free resources, check out my Stan store. The link's in my bio. See you guys on Thursday.